people with smaller influencer or follower counts, they have a more niche audience. And so find creators with that niche audience and you're going to get more bang for your buck. Because if you have a very specific message and there's someone with 1 million followers, and of those million, only like 50,000 resonate with your message, you are paying the rates of 1 million follower count creator, but you're only benefiting from 50,000 of those followers. But if you find someone who has 50,000 followers and is in your niche, then you're paying a lower rate and you're still getting access to 50,000 people.
Before we get started today, I really want to tell you about a course that we've been working on called the Influencer Flywheel Challenge. We've surveyed our 10,000 subscribers. We found their number one pain point was building effective influencer content marketing systems. So we've gathered the world's best influencer marketers into a 4-day seminar, November 10th to 13th. Make sure that you can make it. If you can't make it live, the replays will be available. But if you go to d2cnews.link/flywheel right now, that's d2cnews.link/flywheel, you can get on the waiting list for the course. It's going to be fantastic. On with the show. Hello and welcome to D2C Podcast. Today we are super lucky to have Roger Figueiredo, who is the VP of Marketing and Sales Development at #Paid. #Paid is one of the top platforms out there for sort of arranging your entire influencer marketing campaigns, meeting influencers, leveraging them against high value dark post campaigns. It's really exciting to have you on here. I know that you have been in the trenches of influencer marketing kind of since its inception. So I'm really interested to kind of learn from you about the way things have evolved and the way things are going with influencer marketing, creator marketing, as you guys like to call it. So welcome to the D2C Podcast. How are you doing, Roger?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat marketing, influencer marketing.
Nice. And KG, of course, Kyle Guilfoyle is on the podcast as well. Always good to have you back on the province. He was in Ontario for a little bit, so our time zones were messed up. So it's good to have you back on the West Coast.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, Roger, what is one thing right now that you think people are misthinking when it comes to influencer marketing? What are they doing wrong with influencer marketing right now?
With influencer marketing, yeah, I think one of the having talked to a lot of marketers over the last couple of years, one of the things that people are still hesitant with is giving creative control over to the creator. They're still used to this. They treat the influencer as if they were an advertisement or as if they were a billboard, and they try to bring the approach over to working with creators, and they really. You're taking away a lot of the juice of influencer marketing when you do that. Essentially, you're taking all of this creativity and all of this potential that they have to engage their audience, and you're saying, well, actually, we know that you've been engaging your audience and you do it that way, but talk to them, say this to them specifically, and do this, and use this, and you're stripping them of their power. You're stripping them of their potential. So that's something that I find that some people are actually cognizant of. They realize that is an issue, but they have a hard time handing that over. It's not easy. And I get it. I understand, but it's an issue. It makes influencer marketing less powerful.
Because it's all about authenticity, right? Like, just lose that authenticity. Like, you really have to let those influencers speak their language, because that's how they've built those audiences, right? Obviously.
And so Roger, are there some best practices when it comes to communicating with influencers to ensure that you're getting what you want from them as your brand, and they're also free to express themselves?
I love that question. And yes, the answer is yes. In fact, I think there were a couple thousand creators that were polled. And the right answer to working with a creator is not total freedom, in the sense that, hey, we want to sell this shirt, so go and create content. It's more, here are some boundaries. And within these boundaries, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's how creators prefer to work. So again, this was a poll that came out, I think it was by Joel Backler, if you guys want to look him up, Joel Backler. And he talks about these creators actually want boundaries, but they want freedom within those boundaries. They don't want to be dictated to, but they do, again, I know I've said it like 2 or 3 times, but they do like boundaries. They do like getting direction and being pointed in a certain way, but then from there, like back up and let them do their thing. And to your point, Eric, I think you're absolutely right. It strips, when you don't do that, when you kind of dictate, it ruins the authenticity, because all of a sudden you're used to a pattern of content. You made your content, your handle, your brand as a creator is essentially, a brand is a promise, and the creator's promising that they will deliver on their feed this type of content consistently. A brand is as good as your ability to consistently fulfill that promise. I will consistently provide you with comedic content or humorous content or DIY content. And if at any point I fail to live up to that promise, my brand takes a hit. And so anytime you dictate to a creator, their brand takes a hit. And that's why we don't recommend it at all.
Let's back up a little bit here, because I think everyone in the audience knows what influencer marketing is, but I think we're still in the period, I think, where people might have misconceptions about, how influencer marketing has evolved, what it was and what it is. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. So influencer marketing isn't new, right? It's been around for ages, thousands of years, and it the first time somebody recommended something, there's influencer marketing. I believe you. You have influence into my life, and I will take your recommendation and do this or that. And so, I think what we normally have, when we say traditional, what we think of as celebrity marketing. We go back to Michael Jordan and Hanes, or Michael Jordan and Nike, or the DeLorean and Back to the Future, or something like that. And in that era, in that time, there were gatekeepers, and in order for you to have access to an audience, there were certain people who said yes or no. Yes, I will give you access, or no, I will not give you access. And that's probably the fundamental shift in influencer marketing, is that there's no more gatekeepers. There's no one saying, now you have access. Yes, we grant you access to this large audience. It's not like that anymore. Pretty much it's anyone who is good content can build an audience. That's the fundamental difference. It's that it's sort of up for grabs to anybody who can produce good content. And that's the fundamental shift. No more gatekeepers. There's no more TV producers. There's no more editors saying, yes, you'll be allowed on our show, or no, you won't. It's, you pick up, you create a handle, you make an account, and you start shooting with your iPhone. And if you do it well enough, you'll build an audience and you'll become an influencer.
Now let's talk about the advertiser side. So this is for people that want to get into that influencer marketing space. But I feel like even from the marketing and advertising side, I think some people are still operating from, I don't know, like a Kim Kardashian mindset or a Paris Hilton mindset, that you were really focused on finding the influencers who are going to have the actual most influence over your brand. And then also relying on them to make a post and to make sure that your marketing is coordinated for that post. Just let's talk about, let's get into whitelisting and how that's really changed the game, specifically for you guys at Hashtag.
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of things you mentioned that were really interesting. The first is, you mentioned Kim Kardashian, how people, when they think of influencer marketing, they think of Kim Kardashian or sort of that broad appeal. And I'm not sure if this is the direction you're taking the question, but I'll take the opportunity maybe to chat a little bit about sort of these large celebrity influencers that are also digital now. They've moved their influence maybe offline from traditional channels like TV, and they moved it online. So think of people like LeBron James or Kim Kardashian, your musicians, your actors. They've moved it online, and then you have these, you have some other folks maybe that have less followers, who sort of, they're digital first celebrities or digital first creators, meaning they sort of create a handle and they built their audience from scratch and they became celebrities that way versus sort of through traditional channels. And they're both good. When people think of influencer marketing, they sometimes think you have two camps. You either have sort of some old school folks who are like, nah, 50,000, nah, that's not for us. That's not going to do anything for us. Then you have, the other camp who says, no, like celebrities are stupid, it doesn't work. And the reality is they're both very good. They both work. I think you have to do a lot of vetting to get the right people, but the reality is they both work and they both have different purposes. And normally when I'm talking to marketers, my recommendation is, if your message is broad, meaning it is not very specific, it is not very targeted or segmented, then a large digital first or traditional celebrity will do the job. They'll get the job done. Like if you're wearing a Hanes t-shirt, man, anyone can wear a Hanes t-shirt. So yeah, go ahead.
With snow, everyone has teeth. Everyone has teeth for snow, right? So that's going to work.
You got it. But if you have a more targeted message, then your micro, your sort of your nano influencers, people with smaller influencer or follower counts, they have a more niche audience. And so find creators with that niche audience, and you're going to get more bang for your buck. Because if you have a very specific message and there's someone with 1 million followers, and of those million, only like 50,000 resonate with your message, you are paying the rates of 1 million follower count creator, but you're only benefiting from 50,000 of those followers. But if you find someone who has 50,000 followers and is in your niche, then you're paying a lower rate and you're still getting access to 50,000 people. And so, of course, like algorithms aside, Instagram algorithms aside, it's just I'm reducing it here for the sake of the conversation. But in a sense, if you have a specific message, use creators with smaller follower counts. You can be hyper personalized, way more targeted. So, but then again, broad messages, great for those bigger folks.
Nice. And then I guess the other just part of that question would be to lead into the art of whitelisting, essentially, and how whitelisting has like really changed the influencer marketing game.
Yeah, whitelisting is really exciting, and we use that in B2B too. We're trying it out, and if anyone's listening to this or watching this and you don't know what it is, I'll quickly explain it if you guys don't mind.
Please.
It's normally with paid social, you're running an ad through your brand handle. So for us, let's say it's #paid. Instead, whitelisting says, I'm gonna partner with this creator. There's some affinity here. We're partnering. I'm actually gonna run my ads through their handle. And so that's what's called whitelisting. They're letting my message pass through their handle. And so when we build something like that, we build it as a brand new ad. And so all of a sudden now you're doing influencer marketing, but it's like you have all of the optimization and all of the specifics that you can get with paid social in your Facebook ads manager. You can use all of that targeting with influencer marketing now. So it's kind of like it's like influencer marketing and paid social had a baby.
Amazing. And it's something on the Pilot House side that we just see is absolute rocket fuel. This is one of the reasons we're building a course around this. This event we're doing in November. It's really just because we realize that this kind of content is the stuff that gives your brand the biggest momentum. And I think the thing that I'm most interested in is how it also builds your brand as you're doing it. It more so than any other kind of advertising. I feel like when you create marketing funnels with these whitelisted influencer campaigns, you just have that real opportunity to build up brand affinity, like in a really accelerated fashion.
Yeah, I agree. And part of the excitement there when you use it when you're using it sort of to advance your brand, is that you can use it with in a variety of different ways. You don't have to use it for an acquisition campaign or for a conversion campaign. And you don't have to use it at the top of the funnel exclusively either, which is normally what influencer marketing gets associated with, right? Like top of the funnel, impressions and reach. The reality is you can kind of spread it out throughout the funnel. We've done, before Black Friday, we started working with customers to start building their email lists, right? So they were using influencer marketing. They would whitelist creators and they would build their email lists using whitelisting. So that was the conversion point, get the email, do a giveaway or something, or a contest or something like that. Build your email list so then you don't have to rely just on paid social come November 1st with the elections and with sort of everybody competing for inventory. You can use your email lists. So yeah, you can use it up and down. You can use it for impressions or reach. And the great thing there is you're reaching new audiences with whitelisting, which is why at the top of the funnel, it gets pretty exciting too. With influencer marketing, the organic stuff, you're only targeting the creator's existing audience. That's it. So if you got 50,000 followers, I can target those 50,000 and no one else. But once I whitelist with you and I'm running that ad, now I go to new audiences, right? And so it expands the amount of people and the type of people that I can reach. And then finally, I would say people like hearing from people. There are a couple brand handles that I follow on Twitter that I love, that I advocate for, but they're very few in comparison. If I have 400, if I follow a couple hundred people on Twitter, like a handful of those are brands. So people, I like hearing from people. And I would say that's true about in general. I might, venture out to say that. And so when you're advertising, when you're doing whitelisting and you're advertising through the creator's handle, the message is coming from a person. Even if they don't know that person, it's still coming from a person, which causes you to stop a little bit.
Totally. We were recently speaking with John Hagen, who has done phenomenally well with influencer marketing, and one of the things that he said that we really liked was, if your brand isn't using influencer marketing, you're still playing t-ball, and I'm wondering what you hear from brands, like what are the objections, what are the complaints, why aren't those brands using influencer marketing?
Why aren't brands using influencer marketing? What are the big complaints? From some of the legacy brands, one of the issues is that trying to think of a word that doesn't disrespect them, but some of the folks in leadership who maybe come from the more traditional marketing side, they don't really understand the new metrics, and so if they use something called a mix model, and if influencer marketing is not in that model already, it kind of gets lumped in with paid social, and so there's not a lot of visibility into how it performs, and so they're not as willing to take the risk, and then as a result, their team is, because their leader doesn't understand those metrics, and they're not going to get recognized for that work or for that program or for that campaign. They're like, wow, my boss doesn't really understand this, and so like I don't even know how to pitch it to them. And so the challenge there is just on educating them on, well, this is measurable. And so so that's on the I would say on the bigger brand side, on the enterprise side, that's one of the things that we get. And then I would say from e-commerce brands, they're more driven towards, they're fighting for survival every day for the most part. And so for them, it's every dollar has to have some sort of monetary value attached to it in terms of a return. And so for them, it's like, can I measure acquisition from this? Can I measure conversion from this? And historically, influencer marketing has been sort of a black box. And so for them, it's like, no, I'm not doing influencer marketing because I can't track dollars back to it. I'm going to get fired eventually. So no.
Well, I mean, that's an awesome segue because, in this landscape, like attribution and measurement is already a pretty unwieldy beast. And, I can imagine many brands probably see throwing influencers into the mix as like, making it an even bigger task. How do you approach measurement, and what steps do you suggest brands take to measure their influencer partnerships effectively?
Yeah, and there's a lot of great tools out there. I work for #paid, so we sort of got this covered. But if you're not using #paid, there's a couple good tools you can string together to make this work. So depending on whether you're enterprise or whether you're in e-commerce, sort of some of the methods are going to change. On the enterprise side, we run a study to see whether influencer marketing. So we run lift studies, and so we see whether influencer marketing is actually, for example, increasing foot traffic. So there's some they check whether the person's phone, if they're watching on their phone, if they've entered the store. We did this with IKEA, and so whether they've come to the store within a certain period of time. We're looking at sales lift, brand lift, perception, et cetera. So that's on the enterprise side. So we do measure all of that on all our campaigns. Some customers or some of the more educated customers are like, we're not even buying if this is not available. And so that's what we're doing there. And then on the e-commerce side, sorry?
So that's interesting. I always like hearing about legacy. I worked with some big agencies in the past, and the whole foot lift and the brand lift, all the things that aren't the things that I'm used to, like conversions and clicks and performance-based things. It's always interesting to hear the language of legacy performance.
Totally, yeah, and I know this is a D2C focused show, so I'll hop over there now. But it is possible in the enterprise stuff. It is possible in the enterprise world. In the e-commerce world, they're using affiliate codes. There's UTM codes that people will use. With whitelisting, it becomes very, very easy. It becomes essentially the same as your paid social. There's no difference. So you can choose your attribution window. You can optimize towards the conversion, towards the sale, towards the click, et cetera, et cetera. So with whitelisting, it becomes even easier. And then on the organic stuff, it's your affiliate codes, it's your links, it's dedicated landing pages, et cetera.
Nice. I wanted you to just, I don't know if you can talk about, specific clients or anything like that. I know you guys work with a lot of different kind of advertisers. Can you give us an example of someone who's just like give us the outline of a campaign that has just worked really well. And like it's essentially what I'm trying to get at is like, what are people doing with hashtag paid even specifically right now? How are they orchestrating these campaigns for maximum impact?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. The first one that comes to mind is a really funny one. It's actually a laxative. So people always say, oh, this, my brand is not going to work with influencer marketing. And so I'll give you an example of a laxative. If the laxative brand can do it, you can probably do it. Honestly, we went to our creator network. We believe that you have to sort of tap into natural fandom in order for influencer marketing to work. So you got to go get real fans, people who raise up their hand and say, yeah, I want to work with you. Here's my pitch. Here's my experience with your product. So that's what makes it that's what makes it powerful, right? So this laxative brand, we did go out, and there were creators, sure enough, who came back, a handful of them who said, man, I use this. And one campaign specifically, there was this one creator, and I forget her name now, but she during pregnancy, she struggled. Some stuff happened. She struggled to go to the bathroom, and this laxative actually helped her. So she did a video. She did a story, a couple stories from the toilet, talking about this laxative and how it actually helped her during her pregnancy. And she told the whole story. Like, it was a narrative, and it was really well done. It was a story, and it was engaging, and it was a laxative brand. So man, it was just shocking for us to get it back. Like, wow, this worked, so even we continually, even we keep getting surprised.
That was like I think that's one of the things people hesitancies have out there is like, if you have a luxury brand, if you have a makeup brand, if you have one of these high sheen kind of products, the affinity for influencer marketing is clear. So that is a really interesting example of something. How many people are going to talk about Tushy or laxatives? But everyone goes through these things. So like, the more you're just going to get those especially authentic relationships when people are willing to talk about these things, right?
You got it. Absolutely. That's the power of influencer marketing. Like, word of mouth is so powerful because you use that vacuum, right? Like, you use that blender, you use that vacuum, and you make it every morning. So when you say, man, I've been using the Vitamix or the Ninja, whatever it is, I've been using the Dyson, and man, it picks up every bit of dirt, it picks up all the Cheerios off the floor. I'll be like, oh, I'll give it a shot. If you'd never used it, it's much less powerful. And so it's no different than influencer marketing. You want to tap into real fans, real people who've used and had experience with your product and have a natural fit and blend with your product. So yeah, I agree. Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, that's great. One of the other things I was just wondering is, like, when people engage you guys, are they launching individual ads? Are they launching like, because one of the things that comes up again and again when we with Pilot House and with our clients, we use this term, and I don't know if it's the best term, it's called hall of mirrors. It's sort of this idea that as people are going down the conversion funnel, they get more and more of these faces, whether or not they have influence over them or whether or not they're just good looking people that, are, akin to the customer avatar that they're trying to reach. But essentially this idea of a hall of mirrors, where as they're in the conversion funnel, they're going to see more and more people saying how much they love this product, and that's going to lead to the ultimate conversion. So my question is sort of like, what do you see working best for people? Just like individual engagements where they just test one ads, or where they get multiple versions of these going so they can create this effect?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's you asked at the beginning of our conversation, what's the biggest thing that people are doing wrong with influencer marketing, and I gave you an answer, and this is probably runner up to that, and that's people come and they use influencer marketing as sort of like this kind of point solution. I don't know if point solution is the right word, but they use it for this, like, I have this issue that I want to solve, and I'm only going to use it for this campaign because I want to do acquisition for this product for the month of May. And sometimes it works. Most of the times though, most often influencer marketing is most powerful when you're using it across your funnel and you're using it over a period of time. And the reason is because you spoke about the Dyson once. Cool, but I'm not in the market for a Dyson right now. But if you speak about it a couple times and that brand name becomes familiar to me, all of a sudden now there's a psychological principle where familiarity breeds trust. And so because I'm hearing about that a couple times now, not only do I trust you because I've chosen to follow you, right? I hit the button. This is not interruptive marketing. I subscribe to your content because you're familiar already. And now the brand you're working with is also familiar to me. All of a sudden now, for some reason in my brain, I trust both of you. And so when it's time to purchase, there's a trust built between the creator of the product and me. And so that takes time to develop. It's not sort of done in 2 weeks. So there's this element of length of partnership, but there's also this element of sort of, I don't know if scope is the right, but scope of funnel, like where in the funnel you're using influencers or creators. And really good brands are using them at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. They're using them to, some people don't know how to use a product properly, right? And so, or they want to see it used before they buy it, right? Because you see a picture of it, you know, behind a black background or white background, and it's there, cool. But when I see it in use, it does something in me that says, oh, that's how you use it, or it's that easy, or whatever. And really smart brands are tapping into creators to do that. You know, watch me put this cream, apply this cream on my face. Watch me, I don't know, use this mascara or something. I don't know.
This laxative.
But when it's this laxative, watch me use it. I don't know about the laxative, but watch me use it, and it does something at the top of the funnel. And then, you know, in the middle of the funnel, you can sort of get people to watch a video to educate them. You can start building testimonials and reviews. And then at the bottom of the funnel, you're converting those people. And so really good marketers are they're using influencer marketing across that spectrum, of course, in addition to other marketing channels, but they're using that across the funnel. Yeah.
And let's say that you're working with a brand new creator. Your brand has never worked with them before. Would you recommend that when you're starting off with a creator, they start at the top of the funnel, and then as your relationship with them develops, you kind of bring them down, or is it not quite that linear?
It's not like if you ask me theoretically how it should work, I'd say yes. But the reality is that some customers come to us and they say, I only want to do bottom funnel. In fact, I only want to do whitelisting. And some brands are successful. We have one brand with us who's running organic and whitelisting, but they're doing 20x ROAS, and the value of the product is, I think, in the $60 range, $60-$70 range. They're doing about 20x, which is really good, and they're doing bottom funnel right away. So as much as I want to say yes, the truth is we have some brands who are super successful using influencer marketing just at the bottom of the funnel. But it's not true for everybody. And so generally speaking, if it's the first time you're doing influencer marketing, think about using it across the funnel.
Totally. And that reminds me of another sort of black box area when it comes to influencers, which is compensation. And so how do you approach that one? I'm especially curious for that 20x campaign.
Yeah. So compensation with whitelisting or with organic, or just general compensation?
Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening, I'll try not to talk too much about hashtag paid so that this is as valuable as possible, but it's good to sort out those rates in advance. The reality is there's no standard in the world right now. There is no standard. So creators I had one marketer, the head of marketing for a stretchy pants company, a Lululemon competitor. Pants are around the $130, $140 range. She said, I'll never use influencers ever. I'll never pay them because they've hurt me essentially in the past. Like I was paying one influencer $5,000, and then all of a sudden she got an extra 20,000 followers in a couple of weeks, and then she was charging me $30,000 or $40,000. And we had built that relationship, built that partnership, and then it all went, to scrap. And so the reality is that exists in influencer marketing. And part of the reason influencer marketing gets a bad rap, you asked me this question, why don't people use influencer marketing? This is another one of those reasons. The rates are just, they're not predictable. There's a lack of predictability. For anybody who's listening, I'll migrate here to hashtag paid and how we're solving that problem. Well, we standardize those rates in advance. So when you see a creator on our platform, there's two things that have already been done for you. Or three things rather. We've made sure that they're fans of your brand. Two, we've also locked in their rate, so you're going to see it there. There's no surprises. And three, they've already been approved for whitelisting, and so you don't need to negotiate that. It's all done. You just hit the buttons and launch the campaign. So you can do that yourself. It's absolutely possible to do it yourself. It's going to take maybe a full-time head, like a full-time body on it. It's totally doable. You can use a bunch of different point solutions to get the job done. But we sort of just automate that so it's really quick. We know growth marketers, especially in e-commerce, they got a lot of things to do. They're fighting for survival, so we try to make it as quick as possible. Sorry, I didn't mean to pitch hashtag pay there.
No,
too
that's
much, but
seriously like these tools like this, it's a game, like we're honestly not worried about it because we know that this is a game changing, just this kind of marketing in general is a game changer. And we know the amount of work that goes into doing it organically. So, the platforms in this space are, I think are in a good position because it's like once even those bigger legacy brands, and we have a lot of legacy brands that listen to us, once they embrace this throughout their organizations more, like they're going to see, exponential results from using this. And if your platform, it just makes life a lot easier for people who are trying to do this. It's something that we think of as a real value to the audience.
Awesome.
I wanted to ask you though about like, this is something we were talking about with John Hagen, like, and I know part of the things that you get on #paid is that the contract is taken care of. So that's really understood, like who owns the likeness. Like, I'm just wondering, like, how long do these relationships where you're able to put ad budget into their profiles, like how long is the term on those things? Like, are you able to continually run that in a lot of cases? And do you extend that over time? Like, how does that actually work on that side of things?
Yeah. Are you asking specifically about #paid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have a term. So you can sort of keep the ads running. We have customers who are going up on a year now working with the same creator and whitelisting. They're just seeing success. They're seeing the ROAS that they're targeting, and that's good for them. And they keep running it. We don't have a term on it. But I outside of #paid, again, you're going to get into the negotiation sort of aspect of influencer marketing, which is natural, and creators should get paid for their work. That's a fundamental belief at #paid. So we understand why they want to negotiate, because some people will try to take advantage of them. As much as, there's bad influencers out there, there's also creators who are being taken advantage of. So I understand why they would want to negotiate. We try to make that as easy as possible for the brand. So there's no caps, there's no limits on that. They can just keep working with the creator and build that relationship.
Nice. You got a question there, Kyle?
Yeah. So I was creeping you as I do before these podcasts, and in your Twitter feed, I saw that you record 30 ideas when you get up, and I'm wondering if you could tell us what one or two great ideas you've had lately, and I'm also weirdly curious in what note-taking tool you use, and then we have something a little bit more topical.
Yeah. So it's not every day that I do it. Sorry if it wasn't clear in the tweet, but I do anytime I have some deep thinking work to do, or when I need to come up with an idea for something. That's when I sit down and I write 30 ideas. It's most useful for me when I'm writing a big essay. So I've written a couple essays this year, and I sit down and I look at, if I'm interpreting a text or if I'm trying to come up with an idea for an influencer marketing article. I wrote one, How to Think About Influencer Marketing. I sit down and I write 30 things. That's how I start. And that's just my process. I find that the easy stuff is what I come up with first, right? The first 5, 10, 15, the depth and the good stuff, the meat is sort of in the latter half. And so that's my process for when I need to come up with a creative idea or something. I get a notebook. I don't even do it digitally. I just get a notebook and I write it out.
Nice.
Yeah. It actually works. I promise you, it actually works. When you push your mind past the obvious, man, it's incredible what you're capable of. Yeah.
And really let it run free. That's an exercise I've done before. I feel like in your mind, you're constantly like putting stoppers on things sometimes just to move on to the next thing. But I feel like if you go through that exercise where you really just try to let it all flow, it's quite beneficial.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. And you push yourself out of you have all this baggage that you've carried from previous employers and from previous experiences. There's all this baggage skewing the creative ideas that you come up with. And normally it's just, that's what comes out. It's the easy stuff for you. But to push yourself further, that's I think that's the really special stuff. Is I'm beating a dead horse now, but you guys get the point. It works for me. I advocate for it. Yeah.
It's great. So here's one of the things we love to talk about is it's been 6 months of COVID life, and it's been maybe 10 years of e-commerce growth in this time, based on where we thought we'd be in terms of number of e-commerce purchases, percentage of e-commerce purchases. It's just absolutely really been a game-changing experience for e-commerce. I'm wondering, in these past 6 months, I know you've been writing essays. We've published a few of them. Like, what's something that's changed in this space in just these 6 months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The creator economy is picking up more people who are out of work, who've lost their work or can't work in their sort of normal employee-employer relationship job. They're out of work, and so they what they're doing is they're monetizing the knowledge that they have. They're turning it into content, and they're either sort of, for teachers, for example, some of them already have curriculums that they're just now selling, and so they're already pre-built. They're not necessarily content creators. Some are brand new creators. They're creating original stuff, new stuff, and they're selling it, and they're developing an income. They're making an income using some of the things that they're passionate about, some of the things that they're good at. I think the last 6 months, that's happened more and more and more. Yeah,
totally.
Kyle, don't forget. I want to go back to the note-taking app.
Yeah,
I didn't forget. Yeah, but that's one of the trends that I think we've seen is more people are getting engaged in turning their knowledge and their experiences and their passions into a business. That's the new SMB.
I was saying about this yesterday. COVID has done a real number on small and medium businesses in general, except for these bright spots. And I feel so lucky to be in a place that will, it's been good for me, but it's also a beacon in the world right now in terms of like businesses that are not, nothing stable necessarily, but buildings that are in these high growth spaces that have low barriers that people can kind of move to. And the creator economy is a really interesting part of that as well.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think it's going to continue as people as they understand that, hang on a second, I can do this now, and there's these vertical solutions that are making it even easier for them. Like for teachers, you don't have to use Patreon or some other tool. You can now use a tool that's only made for teachers, that has buttons, use your language, and the UX and UI speaks to me as a teacher. So it makes it even easier for me. I think that's just going to get better, and people are gonna dip into either a second income or make it a full-time income. It's actually pretty exciting. I'm excited for some of the content. I'm excited for some of the content that's going to get created.
And with whitelisting, it's also, you as a creator, like you don't have to have a massive following. You just have to have the right look, or you need to be a great content creator. It sort of like puts the onus on the content rather than your clout, which is really cool as well.
Totally. There's this idea, and oh man, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I don't remember who first kind of had this thought. I'm a little bit embarrassed, but you don't need 100,000 people paying you $1. You need 1,000 people paying you $100, and so that's the quality of the content.
Yep. Kevin Kelly.
There
1,000
you go.
true fans. Yeah.
You get 1,000 true fans. There you go.
So
thank you.
You're welcome. Roger, one of the things we love to do when we have people like you on is get a little bit of free consulting. And so DTC, we have this product. I mean, obviously we have our newsletter and our podcast. And from all of the research that we've done, from asking DTC brand owners what they would value the most, where their pain points are, influencer marketing was top of the list. And so that's why we're creating the Influencer Flywheel Challenge. Well, first of all, what it is it's a 4-day, live workshop with expert practitioners who can help brands build their own influencer marketing system. And so we'd love to hear how you would recommend we, use influencer or creator partnerships to get people participating in that program.
Interesting. So let me be clear. It's a B2B play you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah. And you alluded a little bit to that earlier. It piqued our ears.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. We strive to, the number one thing that's worked for #paid. I'd say it's just partnering with the right people, talking with the right people, being friends with the right people, building relationships and serving the right people, because then they'll talk about us. And so it's influencer marketing. Essentially, we're sort of eating our own food. So that's what I would recommend.
As opposed to
people to come in.
As opposed to getting a business influencer, jumping on your platform, finding people that are sort of in this space. I guess as a B2B play, it's always, there aren't as many B2B influencers, I guess, right? I guess is Gary Vee a B2B influencer or is he B2C? I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one.
I would say he's both, because there's a lot of consumers I know 17-year-old kids who listen to Gary Vee and they have no business or anything. So I would say there's a consumer element to it, but I also think that business owners, to a certain extent, they listen to him. If he says spend money on Facebook, they'll go spend money on Facebook. So in that sense, Facebook could use him as an influencer. It gets tricky with B2B because you can't pay them as you would a consumer product. So there's a little bit of tricky around the exchange of money. Because as soon as, for example, if I'm advocating for a tool and as soon as you find out that I'm getting paid for it, I lose a little bit of credibility, whereas that doesn't really happen in the consumer space. I find it happens more with B2B because they're larger, they tend to be larger purchases. And so, yeah, so I think there's different ways to approach B2B. I really do like influencer marketing in B2B. It's I guess what they would call thought leadership, I don't know, or content leadership or whatever. But find the right people. So whoever you're trying to bring into these courses, I would say, who's that person? And who does that person look up to? That's the person you want to partner with. And then you got to get creative. So you sit down and you write 30 ways that you can partner with that person, potentially. And, you know, number 15 to 30, there's going to be some good stuff in there. And then you figure out a way where you can exchange value, whether it's cash or whether it's an opportunity to be on your podcast. Maybe you can pay them to speak at a conference or at an event. The exchange of value can happen in a number of different ways. But that person, that your end customer, whoever it is, whether it's consumer or business, it works the same way. Whoever that person looks up to, that's the person who you want to be best buddies with. That's how influencer marketing, I think, works on B2B, maybe more explicitly in B2B, but also on the consumer side.
I actually really like that. I think that's a key distinction. I think oftentimes when we're thinking of influencer marketing, we're thinking of the niche or the vertical, and we're like, oh, you know, who are business influencers or who are, you know, cosmetic influencers. But I think that specifically asking who is going to participate and then asking yourself, who are the people they look up to, I think that's a really, really important distinction. Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where do you see this, just as the last question here before we sign off, like, where do you see this space going? I know you guys are continually evolving your platform. You guys are thought leaders on the whole space. I'm curious as to where you see it going in the short to long term here. Yeah.
Some of the things I've seen, this isn't new, but it's happening more often because technology supports it. And that's creators are developing, they're becoming, they're already brands, but they are developing their own physical products or product that they can then sell. So whether it's software or whether it's a physical product, they start off representing other brands and influencing people towards the purchase of another brand. And then they develop a product that then they represent. So creators will launch more products, and companies like Kala are helping them do this with fashion and with physical goods. And so the easier it becomes to develop a physical product, which it does with contract manufacturing and et cetera. So the easier that becomes, the easier creators develop their own brands and build their own brands. You look at, again, probably one of the bigger examples, Kylie Jenner. But there's a whole bunch of other creators doing that. And I would say the second one is, with these big retailers shutting down, and sort of less people visiting them, I'd say that creators are gonna turn into retailers themselves, right? Like if I follow someone and I'm digging their style, and I like what they wear, I probably want to buy that. And where can I go to buy that? Well, I have to go back to the post and I got to go see who it was, and I got to go. But what if they had their own storefront where I could just shop their closet? That'd be pretty cool. And they almost serve as a retailer. And then if you're a brand, if you're a D2C brand, an e-commerce brand, you could partner with like a bunch of those people and get your product into their stores, quote unquote, into those retail locations. And it can be pretty exciting. So they'll be like the new wholesale buyers, right? Where maybe they'll buy, a bunch of these shirts, they'll buy 1,000 of them and put them in my store. So they'll act as like the new retailer. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it could be interesting.
That's some super interesting predictions there. And it's that a lot of the evolution in the space is going to happen through this, just based on the market pressures, just based on the fact that there's so many people that are going to need to turn to creative endeavors. you know, in order to monetize themselves. Maybe we get universal basic income and we can all just be creators, you know? But Roger, this has been really interesting. I really want to thank you for coming on. I think like I've learned a ton. I think our audience has learned a ton about influencer marketing from this. We'll be doing a full write-up in the newsletter at direct-to-consumer.co. So make sure you go check that out.
Awesome.
If people want to get in touch with you, I know you're on Twitter. Obviously, they can go to hashtagpay.com and you know, fill out a lead form there, and you know, you guys will be in touch with them soon. What any parting words for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, Twitter is I created a Twitter account this year, or was it late last year? So I started using it this year. So I'm new to Twitter, but I'm really enjoying it, and it is a really great way to get in touch with me. I do look at my messages there, DMs they call it. I do look at my DMs. LinkedIn is a good spot too. Email, it's my last name at hashtagpay.com. You can get in touch with me. By the way, I am a subscriber to your newsletter. Almost our whole marketing and sales team is. We're big fans and we love it. So if you are watching this, it is a worthwhile newsletter to have in your inbox. By the way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This influencer marketing is great. We just got the biggest meta influencer on influencers to jock our podcast. That's fantastic.
It is a good newsletter. It is a good newsletter. Awesome, not because Roger. I'm here, but it is.
We'll talk about Joe Thornton on the Leafs next time. I bet that's on your radar.
Okay. Oh yeah.
But anyways, thanks so much. This was awesome, and we'll catch you again soon.
All right.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks.
Take care.
Peace.